To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Listen up, people. We got a big favor to ask, and we promise it won't take too much of your time. You know our show is supported by some fantastic sponsors, right? Well, we'd love to hear your feedback. Head to ESPNpodcaststudy.com and fill out a short, anonymous survey. That's it. We swear. No more. Again, that's ESPNpodcaststudy.com.
Today, there's a parade in the Bay Area to celebrate another Golden State Warriors championship. But are we obsessed with talking about their greatness, or are we obsessed with their dynasty? Not even close. We skipped all that and went straight into the summer of LeBron, and it sounds like Kevin Durant might be in all the feels because of it. We'll get into it. It's Golic and Wingo, Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Good morning, guys.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Man, it's so good. So good. I like that. What we got, sprinkles are for championships and pugs not drugs, and Mario Brothers.
The trickle down effect of Jason Fitz's presence on this show automatically lowers our professional dress code. For anyone that's not watching right now, anyone that's listening on ESPN radio, Jason Fitz walks in with the goofiest shirts on planet Earth. Usually,
he does.
He wears shirts of someone half his age. He's the sneakiest 40-year-old on the planet. Dad's shirt's got an ice cream cone and sprinkles on it, and mine's got a cartoon pug. This is the front that ESPN wants put out there to start your day.
It fits so perfectly. I mean, we've worn these shirts before. This is back from the Cavs championship, when sprinkles are for champions, you know, and they were champions, so they got some sprinkles on their ice cream cone. But yeah, it just kind of seems to fit more when you're around because you truly are a child.
So what you guys are telling me is that you look at the calendar and you're like, ooh, Fitz is in. We can have a little fun.
No, we just said, Fitz is in. We got to dress down today.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you got dress down days in high school. You get to walk in and know it's just everything matters a little less today.
That's exactly right.
You know, and maybe to you guys, but this is moving up. I put a fancy shirt on top of Mario, so I feel like I'm really.
That's a fancy shirt, huh? The old denim button down.
Yeah, well, you know, I try.
All you need is some denim jeans, and you have the Canadian tuxedo, and you're all set to go.
Or the full Will Kane. I've gone full Will Kane if I can just get denim. On denim. We got a lot to get into, obviously, with Golden State, and we'll do that. But first, let's get into a little of what's trending. The Stanley Cup champion Capitals will celebrate the city's first major I'll try that again. We'll just go all over again. The Stanley Cup champion Capitals will celebrate the city's first major four pro sports championship in 26 years with a parade down Constitution Avenue this morning.
Yeah, you got to go back to the Redskins back in 92, the last time they had a champion there. We're able to celebrate, and let me tell you, this is a continuation of the celebration. The pictures of Ovi, Alex Ovechkin, I said Alan twice, I think, with him. Celebrating after the win. The only sober time he had was when he was on the ice holding the cup over his head. By the time 10 minutes into the locker room, he's been drunk and been drunk ever since. And more power to him. The tweets out there that were telling those guys to act like you've been there before, I wanted to just retch. I mean, it's the first title they've ever won, the first title in that town in a couple of decades, and they are having a ball with it, and more power to them.
I operate by one core principle when it comes to the world of sports. If you have the chance to stunt, you stunt. Alexander Ovechkin and the Capitals are stunting right now. I use the G given the clientele here, but Ovi's pictures have been wrong. This guy was built for this guy was built for this post-celebration, right? He already looks like a walking hangover, and now he gets to be one.
Yeah. Let's also remember, too, hockey players, it's not like they don't know how to party throughout the course of the year. So now you add a Stanley Cup to it, especially as a guy that I don't win things. I just get nominated for them in my life, and I still tattoo them on my arm. Like, what would I do if I actually won something major? Like Betty Ford. Give me a few weeks. And then
these guys look like cavemen with no teeth that are just kind of walking around, drunken with hangovers. But Fitzy, who loses in this? Who loses in Washington? Oh, my gosh, yeah.
So the losses today.
Is this unreal?
This is incredible to me. Planned months ago, the Redskins are acknowledging the replacement strike players from the 1987 Super Bowl.
Back when I was playing and we went on strike, the replacement players played those 3 games out there. And the Washington Redskins, they won them. They did really well with their replacement players.
Right. They went 3-0 with their replacement players. They won the Super Bowl, and their guys never got rings.
Right.
And so this has been, they made a documentary on it. So they're bringing Charlie Casserly, the GM at the time, back to present rings to the replacement players. They're doing it today.
Today, I mean, what are the odds of that?
You want to go back and throw rocks at him for old time's sake?
I know. That's pretty bad,
I'm just saying,
it's
remarkable that the replacement players are being replaced on parade day. I heard the bomb. I heard the bomb, guys. Next up, wait, I got to hit this little.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's also parade day in Oakland. The Warriors' third parade in 4 years will begin at 11 a.m. at the corner of Broadway and 11th Street. Head straight down Broadway until it turns right at 20th Street and Thomas L. Berkeley Way, right again at Harrison Street. I love that we're giving everybody directions.
We're
just going to go on a path. We're going to go on a path, and people will have a parade.
This is great. Listen, these parades, we know the players. I'm sure like them. Maybe some not as much as others. It's for the fans. The fans that go out there and really acknowledge the players, and the players to acknowledge the fans as well.
Wait. Are you downplaying parades?
I'm not a huge parade guy. I'm not a huge parade. Now, in this instance,
I don't even know.
I would dig it if I were one of the players because it would a lot of bad things would be going on during the parade. But overall, I'm not a monster parade guy.
It makes sense that Fitz would like parades because they're essentially mobile concerts. Like all that is you basically took a concert stage and just moved it throughout the course of a city. I can understand your affinity for them. I enjoy anything that allows you to be drunk outdoors. That's why to me golf is so appealing.
Yep.
That's why parades would be appealing because you get to be drunk and it looks like it's going to be nice outside. And 11 a.m. Pacific, by the way, if you show up at 11 a.m. Eastern, you will likely be showing up to nothing but ruin and decay.
Good point.
It is being pointed out to me that they're expecting over 1 million people. So
that's great. That's cool.
I'm giving the streets to help with that. Get out there early, guys. Get out there early, and you know what? Party responsibly. Just get out there and be safe.
You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning, guys.
That's true. Can I give one incredibly long-distance connection to the Washington Capitals?
No, just don't do it.
And the Golden State Warriors?
What if I say no?
No, his name's on the show. We can't do anything about it.
The Capitals in their first season, 1974-75.
So's mine.
Went 8-67-5 in their first season. Their only road win came March 28, 1975 against the California Golden Seals at what was then the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, which is now Oracle. They won their only road game in that building where Golden State plays, I think, for one more season before they're going to get a new arena. That's a pretty cool little connection.
I'm not going to lie. I was getting ready to rip you for it, and everyone in my ear wants me to rip you for it. I thought that stat was pretty cool, and I would love for some Golden Seals gear.
I think that is cool, and I'm completely agreeing.
Golden Seals throwback gear?
I think two cool things. You stop with the clock. We need to get rid of the clock.
I'll take the cool gear. I will never get that 30 seconds back from that awful stat.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me!
In Major League Baseball, the best part about getting this is I get to have the last word.
You gave in to Stanzik there.
No, they didn't even tell me to.
I can see Stanzik's hand moving around inside your mouth.
Gentlemen, I hit all right, that means we move forward.
I only could see that because his hand just came out of my mouth.
Bryce Harper and the NL East leading Washington Nationals begin a 2-game series in the AL East against the AL East leading New York Yankees tonight.
Oh, okay, that was it.
That was it. That's all I was giving you. Yeah.
Make you look bad now since you ripped my stat. So here's the deal. I mean, the Yankees, we know what's going on with them. We're going to talk plenty about it leading up to the trade deadline of them trying to get a pitcher to finish out the season, a starting pitcher. Bryce Harper has been interesting. The first 10 games of the season, he was, hitting 345. Since then, 210, averaging a home run every 5 at-bats in the first 10 games, now every 15 at-bats. But he is leading the way with 19 home runs. We know what kind of hitter he's in. He hasn't hit the ball great on his last, I think, 40 or 50 at-bats, something like that. But you look at right now, the leading contenders out of the American League and the National League, they're tied to reach the World Series. It's the Yankees or Astros right now, both at the same odds, and it's the Nationals and Cubs who have the same odds to come out of the National League.
It's amazing. So we talk about that, them being at the forefront of the conversation. Bryce Harper being a name that we've known for a while, a guy who's actually sort of an edgy personality. And for so long, all we talked about was Bryce Harper, free agency this coming year, $500 million contract coming from the Yankees. how quickly has he faded into the background? This is like Steph Curry. The Steph Curry zenith after that first MVP to where he is now. I don't understand it. Bryce Harper seemed to be exactly what baseball needed, make baseball fun again, and yet he can't buy a headline. He can't buy a conversation.
That's the interesting part of it, because early in the season everybody was exploding on it. It's also interesting to me, Mike, you talk about how the Nationals are so highly regarded, but how many teams can you talk about at this point? The Nationals are 15-16 at home. Yeah. 21-11 on the road. So they're substantially better on the road. Doesn't fit the narrative of what anybody expects at this point. So interesting, that's where they are. By the way, Yankees and Nationals will both look to protect their leads atop their respective divisions. Protecting the lead, brought to you by ADT. Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security system. Visit ADT.com to learn more. And lastly, according to ESPN's Dan Raphael, Deontay Wilder has accepted the terms offered to him by Anthony Joshua's promoter for the two champions to meet for the undisputed heavyweight championship this fall.
Listen, we've been waiting for a big-time heavyweight fight, right? I know growing up, now there were some great, obviously with Sugar Ray and Hearns and Hagler, there were some great, non-heavyweights, but we lived for the heavyweight fights. And you look at these guys, Joshua 6'6", 249, dude is chiseled. You look at Wilder 6'7", 227, two big dudes. 21-0 is Joshua with 20 knockouts. Wilder 40-0 with 39 knockouts. So it's going to be a two-fight deal once they figure everything out. First fight's going to be probably in London where Joshua is, and then next one is going to be in the U.S. And it looks like the first fight, we're talking about 15 or so mil for Wilder with no percentage from the gate. These are all the terms that they're working out. But I'm so happy that we finally have a heavyweight fight again with the big guys, undefeated big guys, and going for the undisputed title.
These sound like DXL guys.
Yeah, they do. That's very true. We should have them in mind, right?
We should.
Yeah.
Work them into the read. Big boys.
By the way, Joshua, the early favorite at -200. Wilder, the plus 170, the underdog.
Big boy fight.
And I will go back to, I think it's interesting the fight's going to be in England because the crowds they've been drawing over there are spectacular. I think it's harder to separate for boxing right now in Vegas. You can put another fight in Vegas, but there's so much activity right now around MMA and so much activity around fighting in general. It's harder to separate. You put something like this at a Wembley Stadium, it makes it such a sight that the world will want to watch. I think it's more interesting.
And he has sold out stadiums out there. And by the way, every one of his professional fights has been in the United Kingdom.
It is just amazing because Vegas we so often think of as the fight center of the universe. I think of every major fight, and obviously there are plenty of notable exceptions, but when it comes to most things, I think the general backdrop is Las Vegas. So nice to see it over there. You mentioned great crowds, and I'm with you, Dad. It's always the appeal of just seeing the biggest go at it. For whatever reason, that's like base level sports appeal. I want the biggest, baddest dudes beating the hell out of each other.
Well, and interesting because you think about the size of Wembley Stadium, and you mentioned that he's been selling out. Joshua sells out over there. The size of Wembley Stadium, yet it's a substantially smaller purse than Vegas, where the arena is much smaller.
Yeah,
so
it is. It is kind of.
It doesn't line up with any of your preconceived notions.
We're going to get it. That's all that matters.
Well, that gets you caught up with what's trending. It's Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Hanging out for the next couple of days, actually, with both of the Golics. So I mentioned it off the top and at the very beginning of the show, and it's interesting to me because we immediately skipped over a championship. And that's just the way society works today, right? We immediately started the summer of LeBron. There wasn't even a 24-hour grace period of let's kumbaya and hold hands and appreciate the dynasty that we may be seeing with the Warriors that we are seeing. No, we went straight in to the summer of LeBron, and all of the conversation immediately shifted from greatness to where's LeBron going to go next. And Kevin Durant has a quote through Yahoo Sports talking about how difficult this has been for him. And this is a quote. I feel like it's easy to be the best player when you don't have good players around you. I feel like it's harder to stand out when you have great players around you. It's an interesting piece of it because I read that as Durant saying, hey guys, look at me. I just won a second finals MVP. We just won a second championship in a row. We're doing something historic, and y'all aren't paying any attention. I read this as Kevin Durant being defensive about, hey, spend more time focusing on me. But, Mike, you read it a different way.
Oh, well, I disagree with him. I think it would be harder to be and when we're talking about great, understand the level we're talking about. If we're talking about LeBron, we're talking about the best player, and in Durant, in my opinion, the second best player in the league. So which is more difficult to shine when you're playing with players that aren't as good or when you're playing with players that are good? You're playing with players that aren't as good. Everybody's trying to shut you down. You're getting the lion's share of the attention. You're getting hit as much as possibly can. When you're the best player or a great player on a great team, it gets evened out a little bit. I think you get a little bit more freedom than you do when you're the best player on a bad team. So I disagree with that premise, but I think overall, I think the bigger picture here, I think Kevin Durant's becoming a little more emboldened over the last couple of years than he has been, from the burner account to trying to hide behind something to being out front and saying some things.
You would hope that would come with the second time around, where the first championship may be more of a sigh of relief than anything else. The second championship would be that confirmation, that validation. That seems to be the word that we've been associating with Kevin Durant for this latest run right now. And I think you're right. I think that comparison, that idea of the best amongst the best or the best with nothing around it, forgets the notion of competition and where people can focus on that. I think that actually would make more sense. Let's say you were in a great band. If you're in a band with a lot of other really talented artists, it might be more difficult for you to stand out, for you to rise above the sound of the rest of the group, as opposed to being a great player in a bar with a bunch of schleps, which I know you have been a part of, Jason.
Both. Yeah.
In both situations. But it becomes interesting, and I heard Will Cain bring this up on his show the other day. This, in his mind, was more of a shot at Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant's former teammate, than it was at LeBron James. A guy who won an MVP on the back of being a solo act in a place where there wasn't as much around him, where there wasn't as much expected, as opposed to Kevin Durant, who came over to Golden State and has got 2 finals MVPs off the back of being the best guy on the best team.
You know what? I never thought of that one. That's an interesting take as well.
But is it possible that we've seen so much of Mr. Sensitive from Kevin Durant that we're just reading into, I mean, the rest of his quote, I pride myself on standing out wherever I am. I pride myself on working hard wherever I go, and I feel like these guys embrace me, and I feel like I'm a warrior. Like, he's not really saying anything super controversial there. We're just so used to him being super sensitive that we want to apply it.
Yeah, that line isn't, but the line about the great player on a great team, that is trying to justify being on a great team. Where I guess and listen, none of us have ever, well, maybe you were Juilliard at 10, so you were up in that high level. Mike, you and I were never at the high level of our sport, to where my thought is always, why do you need to say that? Why do you need to go down? I mean, what you keep feeling like, does he keep feeling like he needs to validate what he's doing because he went to this team when, dude, you're the second best player in this league, and some people think pushing the best player in this league. So not sure why you really got to, go down that road.
Ego. Think about this. Think about as confident as Kobe Bryant is. What have we seen out of Kobe? There's an article that came out in the Bleacher Report. We saw quotes from him early in the playoffs. Kobe Bryant going through very great, subtle in his mind, I'm sure, but great lengths to remind us that he should also be in these conversations, that by many metrics in his mind, he has the greatness to be in the level with LeBron James and Michael Jordan. As otherworldly as Kobe Bryant's confidence is, he still feels the need to justify his existence in this realm.
Don't you think, though, it's reasonable, if you put yourself in Kevin Durant's mind, and you're 29 years old, right? You've won the MVP 2 years in a row for the finals. You've won a couple of championships. Don't you think it's reasonable if he looks back and says, okay, I'm going to make this move, to think at some point they'll get off my back and they'll come over to the side of, hey, this is great and good for you. And that's never happened. He's become villain number 1 for the NBA because he made the choice to go to Golden State, a choice that was his.
Right.
And because so many people want to blame him for ruining the NBA, which is ridiculous, but that's where everybody wants to be on it. So I think there's a spot, even without being necessarily an egomaniac, where in a social media world where that obviously does trigger him, you're looking at it and saying, man, what in God's green earth do I have to do to get people to get off my back and finally give me a little love for what I'm accomplishing?
I guess my point is, you don't have to say anything, because, and to me, the difference of Kobe and Kevin Durant is Kobe's done. Out of sight, out of mind. So Kobe wants to remind you, hey, whoa. I know what's going on today. So don't just look over there. Look over here and what I did. Durant's still playing. We get to see Durant on the floor do what he does. I'm always amazed, because I've known others not in the sports realm, in this, who were so good but so insecure that it blows my, that I don't, and maybe because I'm never at that level, I don't understand that, but I'll never understand why do a burner account? Why do you got to answer critics? Why do you care?
Because we're still not paying attention. Think about it. Like you mentioned Kobe's not playing anymore, and that's right. He wants to stay in the narrative. Durant is, and we aren't giving it any due. We're not paying any attention.
Who is saying he's not the second best player in the league? I mean, are there people out there, or is it about the championship that they feel it's tainted?
Well, I think it's all of that, and I think it's just the idea that his move was still wrong for all these reasons, that people are still judging him based off that decision. And I'm sure for a guy that saw LeBron James overcome the burden of his decision the first time around, Kevin Durant's wondering, how can we speed this process up to get to me for that? Because he's got everything else. I mean, God, his GM is basically saying in these contract negotiations, blank check, do what you want. You get this. That's validation enough for most people to have their employer, to have their workplace put them in the highest tax bracket by saying, this is how much we value you. But for Kevin Durant, that's still not enough because this is the way that guys at the top level of sport work.
I just can't imagine being the best player on a team that just won the NBA championship for the second consecutive year, that's getting this huge opportunity, that's shown for the second consecutive year he can carry a team to a championship. And after he wins that championship, the entire conversation is about the guy on the other side that lost the championship and where he's going
That's
next.
just not on Kevin Durant, though. That's just the expectation was they were going to win it. So it's like, ho-hum, they did exactly what we all thought they were going to do. Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030. To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Don't forget, you can leave us a voicemail at 860-506-5505. That's 860-506-5505. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr.
Couple things real quick. Adam tweets into us at Golic and Wingo. When you're laid up in the ICU, you turn on these guys to raise your spirits. Adam, he's got us on in the ICU there. We hope you get better. Hope everything's going okay for you. And Heather tweeted out a picture of just under 10 people already out at 5:30 a.m. This picture was taken in East Coast time at the Capitals parade. It starts at 11, and there were people out on the parade route at 5:30 this morning. Oh, my gosh.
I respect so much of that.
That's
Boy,
incredible.
what they remember of this parade is going to be so spectacular.
Few and far between. Their memory will come 9 months later.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Wow.
What do we name them?
And that's what we call Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks. No contracts. So, I'm just driving around in my car yesterday listening to Le Batard and having a good time. And Brian Windhorst is on. And Wendy's going to join us in the 9 o'clock hour today, 9:30 Eastern. Always great stuff from Wendy. And he's talking a little bit about what LeBron might do next. And all of a sudden he says something that makes me spit my coffee out. This is what he had to say.
The best thing to happen would be if he could get on the phone with Kevin Durant and talk him into playing with him in Los Angeles. That would be the way to wound your number one competition, join two of the best 3 or 4 players in the league, create a new super team, and change everything. But Durant has already said he intends to resign with the Warriors.
That's pretty good, though, Brian. Brian, that's a pretty good one.
Really good.
Brian, that's a good one.
A little upset I didn't think of it.
That's the move that he could do. But Durant has what LeBron wants. Why would Durant do business?
I mean, the thought of Durant just picking up the phone or LeBron picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, KD, you, me, Lakers, what you think?"
It's a fantastic thought because it's twofold. It puts the two of them together, the best players, the two best players of the world together, and it damages the team that just won the last couple of championships. And unfortunately, there's no way it's going to happen. Why would Kevin Durant do it? Why would he leave where he's at? The money's not the issue. That's the great thing about basketball is money is never the issue when you're a top player like that. Why would you leave and go to another with another superstar and now to say to beat the guys that I joined to win some championships? I don't see any way him doing that. But man, talk about these sugar plums dancing in your head for a minute thinking of that a duo together.
It's a nice reminder, though, because while I don't think that scenario plays out, reality reminds us of two things. One, LeBron James is in an unusual position this offseason where he's kind of in sell mode. He's got to sell what I can do for you in a way that before was always apparent to everyone. Golden State and Kevin Durant do not need LeBron James, so he's got to work a little bit of overtime to put this together. And the other thing is, we need to reset what we think is possible, because while that scenario might not be possible, it's a reminder the picture looks a little too clear. I'm uncomfortable with how easy this looks. How easy, cut and dry the potential destinations look for LeBron James, because I rarely think things are that easy. I rarely think we are privy to the entire picture in a way that plays out in the actual results.
I think that this dream scenario by Wendy, which I agree is not going to happen, but if it could happen, the other team that would be just doing cartwheels up and down the halls would be Houston. Because if you're telling me you're going to make the Warriors less, then you're going to come in and say maybe there's a chance it takes LeBron and KD a little time to gel. In the meantime, Houston just sits here, keeps the standard that they've got now, and they have a shot at a championship. But it would stack the West to a point that we wouldn't even they need their own network for the East. Nobody would watch it.
I think that's the one thing to remember here when we moved right past the Warriors winning the title, even though we say it was a competitive sweep, with some of the games. We have to remember Houston took them to 7 without Chris Paul in a couple of those games. So there is that, what could they do if they come back just as they are? We know some of the landscape will change. The landscape in Golden State's not going to change. That's the most important thing. Will LeBron end up over in the West to kind of jumble things up? Some people, when you talk about San Antonio or L.A., which is getting the most talk there. But Houston, to me, is still the intriguing team of forgetting landing LeBron, but keeping that team together as is, the best record last year in the NBA, and took the champs to 7 with one of their main guys hurt. They have to, I would think they're feeling pretty good about where they are right now.
They have to be feeling good about where they are, but they also, to Fitz's point, I think there's the most boom or bust there depending on this, and you could have a lot of boom if somehow Golden State, because we don't know the future of some of these guys. We've heard up in the air about Clay and Draymond as the future goes along for them. It sounds like Chris Paul's going to re-sign in Houston, but where LeBron James does end up is the biggest part of this, because if you add another player like that in the Western Conference that they would have to see on a regular basis, that they would have to be competing seeding-wise for, that adds a wrinkle to it that could negatively affect them. If he stays in the Eastern Conference, then they get to look potentially at another shot where they're healthier, they've been together another year, and potentially could bolster a little bit. Now, I think Clint Capella for them is the contract that's most pressing this year.
So you're looking for like a $25 million, I think, Brett, we're talking about with Capella, possibly with an extension, making like $25 million a year. He's no doubt a key ingredient for them. We keep talking about Paul and Harden, but that's a key guy in the middle.
Well, and Paul, though, is a name that's going to continue to come up. You're listening to Golic and Wingo. Jason Fitz in for Trey with the Golics. And last night on Spain and Fitz, which you can hear 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on ESPN Radio, we talked to a couple of guys, and one of the keys that everybody continues to say for Houston, you're going to find out right away when free agency opens. They're in a situation where they can offer Chris Paul a max deal, 5 years, more money than anybody can touch. If they don't get cute with it and they offer him more money than anybody can touch, they're basically saying, okay, we're going to overpay for what will be the end of your career to stay in this thing right now. If Houston doesn't do that, and the term that the Bobby Marks and Brian Windhorst of the world have used is getting cute with it. If they try and do something less than that, then Houston's telling us they're leaving the door cracked open to see what else is out there. We'll know, and long before we know what's settled with LeBron, we're going to know what's settled with Houston.
So let me ask both you guys this. Rank them in order. Best to the 1 through 4. if LeBron, people talking about LeBron and Paul George going to the Lakers. So you're there with Kuzma, you're there with Ball. And again, some of the other rosters will change in my talk here, but for the most part, those are the main pieces, okay? Those would be the main pieces in LA.
The
correct?
known pieces.
The known pieces, right, okay? We know the known pieces in Golden State. Let's say Houston stays together and has that team again. And let's say Kawhi Leonard is back to 100% and he's back in San Antonio with LaMarcus Aldridge and they're going to, Greg Popovich, and they're going to have at it again. Those 4 teams, rank them.
Yeah, I go Lakers 4, San Antonio 3, Houston 2, Golden State 1.
You're saying without LeBron James?
No. LeBron and Paul George with the Lakers. LeBron and Paul George go to the Lakers with Kuzma, with Ball, and whatever other pieces are going to assemble there. And then the other teams, what I just said.
Yeah, but if we presume Kawhi Leonard comes back healthy, I think the Spurs are the 3rd best team in the West.
So that's kind of what we're looking at. Again, I'm missing some ancillary pieces. I get it.
If you put if you put a healthy Kawhi Leonard back, Houston team as is, Golden State, and that Lakers team with LeBron and Paul George.
Yeah.
LeBron and Paul George's team becomes the 2nd best team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and I disagree.
I thought we all sat here and said that if Houston made the finals this year, we would have subconsciously upgraded LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers' chances of winning the NBA Finals, right? We all said that.
I did not say that.
All right.
Oh, yes, I would. Houston would have been favored.
Houston would have been favored,
sure.
but we all thought LeBron had a better chance of beating Houston than Golden State, right?
Yes.
Why would that change with him being on a better team?
No, I agree with that.
So
I'm not saying that it's dominant over, but I don't give them the West.
Yeah, no, I
don't give them the West, but I think that they are better than San Antonio and better than Houston just by nature of LeBron James being on that team.
That's Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. The debates are going to continue. Coming up next, the Warriors made it look really easy. So why is everyone now telling us that it wasn't?
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I like those horns, man. I want big sound. I get this, and they get this.
SportsCenter is brought to you by Ultimate Software. In business, just like in sports, success comes down to having a talented team and a strong game plan. That's where Ultimate Software comes in, with HR, payroll, and talent management technology that puts your people first.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you don't want to miss Schefter coming up in just a few minutes. Adam Schefter will join us. We'll get into some of the NFL talk. But we've been talking a lot this morning about the NBA. And one of the things that we've learned in the last 24 hours is that the Warriors are definitely pushing forward a narrative that this championship wasn't as easy as it seemed as a team, or even specifically, check this audio out from Steve Kerr talking about how difficult this was for Kevin Durant.
Last year was sort of the honeymoon, and it seemed like he was engaged all year last season, whereas this year it was more of the fatigue of, trying to do back-to-back. The whole team, you could feel it with the whole team, where it was just harder. Everything was harder. Everything was more difficult. And not only was that true as a group, but for individuals as well. I thought it was a harder season for Kevin. Maybe the novelty of joining a new team had worn off. Maybe, he won the Finals MVP and we won a championship, and, then you're right back at it, and it's like, oh, wait, now you got to climb the mountain again. Like, it doesn't end. I think there's a feeling with some guys that when you win a championship, that solves everything. But it doesn't solve anything. It just gives you a great moment, and it gives you a ring, and it gives you, fodder for people's talk about your legacy or whatever. But life goes on, and you got to, get back up and keep doing it.
I think there might be some people that kind of, oh, God, seriously, you guys had the best team. What could be hard about it? But in talking to, I've never been in that position of winning a championship and then coming back the next year to try and defend it. But we know plenty of guys that have.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about how hard that is. You have now climbed the mountain. When you're climbing the mountain, you have that hunger to achieve what's at the top. And I know they had a title, a couple of years ago, but now they're trying to defend it. They win it. So there's that thought of you take a breath, a little bit, you exhale when nobody else is exhaling because they're trying to get to that spot. So I understand what he's saying, because just as it ends, I mean, basically you're gearing up because you went further. The last two teams played longer than anybody else. You got to start gearing up again after a shorter break than everybody else to do this all again. And you just did it 2 times in a row. And from Kevin Durant's part, you're a 2-time MVP in the finals. So maybe it can be. And you're a human being. You're not a robot to try and get yourself motivated to do it again.
I just feel like we're dancing around the real story here. It wouldn't be this cryptic. It wouldn't be David West coming out and saying after this season was harder for a lot of reasons, but never really hinting at it. If it was just the burden of trying to defend a title, I feel like it would be easy. But this tends to come up when things personally happen outside of basketball that guys have to deal with, or where there's interpersonal stuff. I mean, we may not have won championships, but you've been in enough locker rooms to know that a lot of the problems come when it's friction amongst players, and whatever that's derived from, whether that's playing time, whether I know for your teams in Philadelphia, it was an underperforming offense with an otherworldly great defense that sometimes looks sideways at those guys. And maybe with this team, it is Kevin Durant realizing, man, I am the best guy on this team. Does that make other guys on this uncomfortable? It just seems like we're kind of dancing around in this conversation and not getting the truth of, all right, was there some confrontation in this locker room, which has happened before? We remember the Draymond screaming match inside that locker room. There's strong personalities that comes up, but I feel like we're just outside of the truth.
And by the way, you want to check out the entire interview with Steve Kerr. It's on the Low Post podcast with Zach Lowe. Download and subscribe on the ESPN app and Apple Podcasts. You're listening to Golic and Wingo. Jason Fitz in for Trey, hanging out with Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. All of our phone guests are on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And to what you just spoke about, Junior, I will say, we talked to Mark Spears last night from the Undefeated on Spain and Fitz, and the word he used to describe the team after winning a championship was a sense of relief. And you think about all of the conversation about what that means moving forward. It doesn't mean there's great joy, but when you've dealt with what they've obviously dealt with, there seems to be some sort of a crack in the foundation of this that we're looking at. If it was the Patriots, we'd be flipping out about these sort of like, oh, you won't believe the stuff that's going to come out. I wonder if we just look at it and say, great team won a championship, who cares? If there's more to it, is there a component of some of these guys that are going to be anxious to move on and get something fresh, a new challenge, a new environment, a new atmosphere, because they just won their second straight championship and there doesn't seem to be great joy anywhere?
I think a lot of it can be relief, or is relief, as the fact that we're expected to do this and we did it. As far as going, this was interesting. The Cowboys 92-93, when they won back-to-back titles, and this was right when free agency hit, so maybe there was the newness of that when free agency hit in 93. You had guys, all of a sudden, this was a new thing, and guys were getting offered more money to go play somewhere else, and they were like, okay, got a ring, get more money to play here, and these were starters, so they were already kind of starters and or stars, and I'm going to go play somewhere else and get more money, so I'm going to go. I don't know what that is for. I'm trying to think of what that would be for these great players on Golden State. Now, is it that, because let's be honest, it's Durant and Steph, right? Yeah. And then after that, it's Draymond and Clay. Now, when they have the ability to get max deals, are they getting those in Golden State, those guys? Or can somebody else offer them? Is that important to them? Because they're like, all right, I have these rings. What can I go somewhere else and do? But what else is there to do but win championships with this team, unless you want to go somewhere else and A, you're going to make more money, or B, you're going to be the man. And I don't know if Clay or Draymond go to another team and they're the focal point of that team.
Yeah, it's how much does legacy matter? Because in basketball, that seems to come up more than any other sport, is this idea of how much your legacy matters, because that's what we talk about on playgrounds and in barbershops and in radio studios, is all of that sort of a legacy conversation. Because in a league where there's a cap on what you can make as a player and a softer cap on what you can spend as a team, I feel like it's always going to skew a little bit, this idea of chasing money being all that valuable.
I think it's also harder for us to find out what's really going on in that locker room because there's less guys. Easy to keep everything tight and easy to keep lips closed when there's only a handful of guys in there. So we'll continue the conversation, but coming up, Odell Beckham Jr. is expected to be a Giants mandatory minicap today. But why is another one of the league's top wide receivers not showing up for his team? You'll find out next. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio.
To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Listen up, people. We got a big favor to ask, and we promise it won't take too much of your time. You know our show's supported by some fantastic sponsors, right? Well, we'd love to hear your feedback. Head to ESPNpodcaststudy.com and fill out a short, anonymous survey. That's it. We swear. No more. Again, that's ESPNpodcaststudy.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, hanging out with Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Don't forget, we love to hear from you. You can leave us a voicemail, 860-506-5505, 860-506-5505. Couple of big parades today, so I'm going to just straight out say I'm disappointed in Washington and in the Bay Area if we don't get some drunken voicemails today. Like, if you don't call the voicemail at the parade completely tanked, like Cliff did when he was
in Philadelphia for the Eagles parade. Yeah, that's true, because somebody did send us a picture of some people on the corner already on the parade route in Washington at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time, and the parade starts at 11. So that's pretty impressive.
See the opportunity. You have a chance, if you call in early enough, to be our parade correspondent. You could have your voice heard multiple times on air.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you're smart, seize the opportunity.
Well, and I'll call out Andrea on Twitter, who tweeted us and said, hey, there were many peeps on the route at 4:30 a.m. for the Eagles Super Bowl Champs Parade, and that was in February. # no one likes us, and we don't care.
Oh, my gosh.
We had somebody live at the parade, Andrea.
We had 3 live hits from the parade.
Good Lord.
Yeah, well,
Philly fans fired up.
They can be tough.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. Speaking of guys that can be tough, ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Obviously, Schefty, we want to get into Odell Beckham Jr. and everything going on, but since I'm in the big boy chair, I'm going to ask a Raiders question because that's my favorite team. So tell me what's going on with Khalil Mack. Should I be worried at this point?
Well, look, I think ultimately when the season rolls around, there's just too much money at stake for him not to be there, but he's not going to be there for the start of the mandatory minicamp today, and they're not close on a contract right now, and I don't know when they'll get close, and I would say that it's one of those situations that's simmering. The Raiders have some things they like to do. The problem that you have, Jason, is that when you're paying a quarterback like Derek Carr, it's tough to go pay a defensive player quarterback money the way the Raiders are going to have to keep Khalil Mack long term. And so these are the choices you make. And that's why there's a huge advantage for a team like, say, the Philadelphia Eagles that drafts Carson Wentz, or the Dallas Cowboys that drafts Dak Prescott. When you've got that young quarterback on a rookie deal, it enables you to spend money in other places that other teams can. And I think that's one of the things that the Raiders are grappling with right now, which is one reason that there's no end in sight to the Khalil Mack standoff.
How about the standoff? Everybody keeps saying it so easily. Just pay our Aaron Donald. Just pay the man. Pay the man his money. And, he's going to get paid, and it's easier said than done to say just pay the man. But he's another one, along with, the Odell Beckhams, the Zach Martin, the Aaron Donald, the Khalil Mack, all going into that 5th year, those guys. But Aaron Donald seems like the one that, man, they got to get done.
Well, Mike, we've been talking about this now for a year and a half, and they haven't gotten it done. A year.
Well, there went.
And that'll be the end of Schefty.
Schefty, you there?
Okay, we may have to try that one again.
But he makes a good point. How long is this Aaron Donald conversation going to go? And you mentioned him, but it ties into Khalil Mack. You got two guys that are both looks like they're sitting at the poker table waiting for one to get signed so the other can figure out what their value is.
Here's the difference. Has Derek Carr gotten paid?
Yes.
Has Jared Goff gotten paid?
No.
I mean, so you're sitting in that position, so they bring in the Rams of $14 million for 1 year for an Ndamukong Suh. This is the time, as Adam Schefter rejoins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, where The difference is with Khalil Mack, as we were just talking about, Schefter, Derek Carr has his money. Jared Goff is still a year or two away from getting his money. So everybody feels like the money is there for Aaron Donald. I guess you fill us in on why it's not at this point.
Yeah. Well, again, they've been talking for about a year and a half now, trying to get that deal done, and they've been unable to do it for whatever reason, right? Either the Rams haven't offered enough, they haven't structured enough, the players wanted too much. You know, I know the Rams have made some big offers. I know Donald has countered that. I know the two sides have been unable to get anything done. And I don't think there's as much talking right now as there was, say, at this time last year. And so the two sides here are at loggerheads. The stalemate goes on. And you talk about the Rams. I think the Rams are in a position now where they're going to start to shift their focus and energy, being that it's been so difficult to get a deal done with Donald, as great as he is, and he's the defensive player of the year, the reigning defensive player of the year. They've got to go sign LaMarcus Joyner, their franchise safety. Todd Gurley's going to want a new contract. Jared Goff's going to want a new contract. Marcus Peters has 1 year left on his deal. Brandon Cooks, they just traded a first-round draft pick for. He wants a new contract. There are so many players in Los Angeles that want a new deal. And at some point, as great as Aaron Donald is, I think they're going to start to say, it's time for us to reach out and try to spend our money elsewhere as much as we'd like to have Aaron Donald. I think right now there's just been a lack of conversation, a lack of clarity from both sides about how to get this done. And they're certainly not moving in the right direction to get this deal done right now.
Talking to Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL insider on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll go to that, to another sort of strange situation. Julio Jones, Thomas Dimitroff, their GM in Atlanta, came out and said Julio won't be at the mini camp this week. 3 years left on his contract, holding out right now as he sees more receivers go over his contract numbers. What do we make of this situation?
Look, he's scheduled to be the sixth highest paid wide receiver in the league this year. Sixth. So I think he's due to make $10.5 million. And there's an argument from each side, right? You got a guy with 3 years left in his contract where if you say, okay, well, we're doing something for you when you have 3 years left, what's to stop the next guy and what's the meaning of a contract? On the other hand, the NFL teams, they cut guys with 3 years left in their contract all the time. But they also don't have a player who is as talented, who's accomplished what Julio has, who has his value. And so there's arguments from both sides. I think what's going to happen here, my guess would be that Atlanta maybe tries to incentivize Julio in much the way that the Patriots did last year with Gronk, when they didn't really touch the base value of the deal, but they put a bunch of incentives in there that if he performed the way that Gronk can and does, that it would bring his deal in line with the top highest paid tight ends in the league. And I think maybe the Falcons will consider doing something of that sort, if that is enough to placate Julio. But it's a difficult situation because the guy's got 3 years left, and they've paid him already the big money. And now he wants to go back to, well, but he should. I'm always for NFL players getting whatever they can, whenever they can, because, again, teams do what's best for them. But it leaves both sides in a difficult predicament as mandatory minicamp gets underway today in Atlanta for the Falcons.
So Schefter, sticking with guys trying to get whatever they can, however they can, and the wide receiver position, it's reported Odell Beckham Jr. likely to report to the Giants mandatory minicamp. Is that a good sign the deal's going to get done, or does it mean anything at all to you?
So what's curious about this one is we have Aaron Donald holding out, Khalil Mack holding out, Julio Jones holding out, and Odell Beckham Jr. is on his best behavior. And I think it's great because a year after so much drama and the Giants make changes to their coaching staff, front office, he's been there for everything. He's gone through the drills. Now, I don't know how long that's going to continue, but he's done everything. And clearly we know that he wants a new contract, that when healthy, he's arguably the most talented wide receiver in the league. He's a freak in that regard, and he hasn't been paid the way he wants to be paid yet. I don't know when that's going to become an issue. But at some point, if that deal is not done, whether that's before training camp, before the regular season, it's going to be an issue at some point. It's just going to be. And there was that school of thought that the Giants would trade him during the draft or before the draft. Remember at the owners' meetings it surfaced that they were open to listening. And I just think the Giants never got back what they really wanted. And when that happened, they recognized how great the player is. They decided to hold on to him and try to make sure that they get what they can out of him. I don't know when that contract becomes an issue, but it's funny to me that while all these other contracts are issues, there's not an issue there with Odell Beckham Jr. yet, with yet being the key word.
Staying with receivers, Des Bryant still doesn't have a job. I'm sure he'll get a job at some point, but did he pass up his biggest payday with that 3-year, $21 million reported deal that the Ravens offered that he turned down?
I don't believe he'll get more money than that. You know, listen, the way business has always been done, he may be the first player to buck this trend. I've never seen a player wait to training camp who had an offer. It's sort of like when you're selling your house. They always say that the best offer is usually the first offer. And he had that offer in April from Baltimore for 3 years and $21 million and didn't take it. And I can't imagine that there's going to be more money for him in July in training camp or August when some team suffers an injury. Now, I guess we could get a couple teams in need at the position, a couple teams that suffer unexpected injuries at a certain point in time, and maybe something of a bidding war erupts for him. But even if that were to happen, what would be the best case scenario? I don't think that there would be a contract that measures up to what Baltimore is offering. Then again, I know this is going to sound strange, but I actually believe it. I don't believe that money is driving his decision here. You know, I believe he wants to go to a place where he can win a Super Bowl, and just as important, play the Dallas Cowboys at least once or twice a year. I think that's critical to him. That's something that's very important to him. He wants to be able to do that. And so if the Cowboys are on your schedule, then I think that you've got a chance to land Des Bryant.
Interesting stuff. Adam Schefter with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And maybe from the interesting to the bizarre now, Julian Edelman appealing that 4-game suspension for violating the league's performance-enhancing drug policy. But now we're hearing headlines and murmurings that the test is being analyzed for an unknown substance. What can you tell us about this?
I don't know what that means. What is an unknown substance? Clearly, there was a positive test that resulted in him facing a 4-game suspension. So what is that substance, right? What is there a flawed test? Now, again, when Field Yates and I reported this last week, the one thing that we were told to emphasize was that the system is not infallible. And it's an issue that's going to come up in the next round of talks for a collective bargaining agreement. And there are people that have issues with the way the drug testing program is run. And again, these things are so private and guarded so closely that it's difficult to give you great in-depth analysis when we don't know exactly what we're talking about. But just on the surface, how are you suspended for an unknown substance? What does that mean? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, agreed.
We totally agree. What we do know is that as you find out information, the world will find it out. So follow him on Twitter at Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL Insider Adam Schefter. Shefty, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Shefty.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
I can't imagine that. Like
I can't believe that. I can't listen. Now there are a lot of common sense things that I think should happen. A lot of things that aren't common sense that I scratch my head and say, wait, how could this happen? Just take it through your mind. You do a test. We've all done tests. You do a test. They come back and they say you tested positive and you're suspended for 4 games. Really? What did I test positive for? We don't know. There's no way I buy this. There is no conceivable way you can sell me on this one that they don't know what it is, yet they suspended him for 4 games. I mean, how is the union, how have we not heard from them? How are they not screaming on the highest mountaintop right now saying, wait a minute, you what? That's, to me, an impossibility.
I feel like a little kid was sent to the corner and he's being yelled at and he looks at his mom and he's like, Mom, what did I do wrong? And Mom's like, I don't know. But when I figure it out, you are going to still be in big trouble.
I don't get this one. I don't get it at all.
In my mind, they've got to know more than we're being let on. And to Adam's point, most of this is kept private, the way medical records usually are. We just went through this with Brian Colangelo and the 76ers.
Right.
There's a reason that was such a coup, because this information is tightly guarded for everyone's safety and for all the HIPAA reasons and things that normally come up. I have to imagine that it's something known, and the part of this that's unknown, they want to make sure they've got buttoned up before it comes out. I saw in a CBS Sports article, Pro Football Talk's Michael David Smith noted in 2003, 4 Raiders players tested positive for a substance, longer name but shortened THG, a substance that wasn't initially detectable in urine tests. It was only after a lengthy Balco investigation that drug testers retested stored urine samples and detected this sample. We know this this drug test was earlier during the off season. Some things came up, so maybe it is just as simple as, it's something that could be right on the fringe that they're trying to make absolutely sure they've got buttoned up before they put out there.
Yeah, well, they already put out there. They suspended him for 4 games. Though. I mean, I guess that's my point is that's cool. I get it. So let's wait and see. But they have enough evidence in their mind to say you are suspended for the first 4 games of the season. I don't know about anybody else, but you suspend me for 4 games, you damn well better have something concrete that says I tested positive for something that gets me suspended for 4 games.
Well, you got a test back. So if you got a test back with something result that looks wrong to you, you usually flag. That's kind of how those testing work. The results come back, you make the decision there, and then you understand that, all right, if we find other information, you can remove that suspension. We see suspensions lessened all the time.
But why not do the opposite?
Yeah, why not wait to suspend the guy because we don't know what the hell it is yet and say, well, this is pending, and then we shouldn't know about it. We shouldn't know about any of it at all. So I still don't get it. I understand what you're saying, but I still would not agree with the procedure of we're going to suspend first and then maybe pull back later.
Especially given the time of the year we're in. If this was during the regular season and they felt like they needed to make a suspension right now because I don't know what this is, but we don't have time to figure it out, I could buy that argument.
Oh, my God, I'd lose my mind even more. Now you're pulling me off the field and you don't know what I tested positive for?
Right, but for right now, there's no reason to do anything. Like, if you're the league, you get something back on a test that doesn't make sense. Why do you not just sit down, shut up, color in your book, and then figure out what it actually is? And when you know what it is, then you can come out with the concrete, you're being suspended for this reason. Right now, you're being suspended for something we don't really have our minds wrapped around, but we're sure it's not legal. That it just doesn't make the timing of it doesn't make any sense because he still practices, he's still with the team. He's afforded all of the same capabilities he will be. The only opportunity the league has now is to get egg on their face because if they try and walk this suspension back when they figure out what it is, they're going to look even worse. If they had said nothing, waited till had all their information, which they still have months to gather, then we'd be able to make some sort of a reaction to it.
If I had to call it, maybe this is a benefit of the doubt the NFL doesn't deserve at this point considering the way they've rolled out other policies and handled other things. Maybe they don't deserve this, but I have to imagine with something like drug testing that's been a little bit more regimented for a while as far as a system of crime and punishment in the NFL, they know enough to have levied this suspension.
I would agree with that.
I have to imagine that they know enough at this point, and they're just trying to make sure that saying a substance wasn't immediately recognizable and they're analyzing it doesn't mean they don't know enough about it to say this is something that goes against our policy. We're finding out what it is before we release the name of it and put that sort of stain on it.
And you're probably right. I get it. You're probably right. But in the world that we live in today, and the NFL particularly, which continually seems to make a mess of simple things, why even roll the dice on the chance that you might end up looking foolish in this process? They had nothing to lose. It's like marrying somebody that you've known for a month. Maybe it works out, but there's also nothing wrong with getting engaged and just letting that play out for a little while.
Listen, I 100% agree with both of you. They don't really deserve the benefit of the doubt in a lot of situations, but I do think they know enough to suspend. And then to your point, Jason, but they don't know everything. They're not concrete in it. So why do it right now? You have all kinds of time because even if, and he is suspended right now, but he can go through everything all the way till the first game. So what's the rush? What's the rush until you have it concrete, everything exactly right instead of now this coming out? And unfortunately, the league has had egg on their face before, and this does nothing to help that situation at all.
You're listening to Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Getting a home quote is easier than ever with Progressive Home Insurance. Golic and Wingo.
I think one of the things I heard you talking about this morning on your show, Mike, is what a difference in the GM for the Warriors talking about KD and his deal. Basically saying whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Not whatever you want, but you're going to get the max.
Yeah, Bob Myers.
So you're going to sign, you're going to get the max. And the difference, and there is basically no negotiation, we have sound on that?
Yeah. This is Bob Myers talking about the contract with the question here.
Kevin has obviously kind of made it clear that he plans to come back, but how about the length of the contract? How big of a negotiation point do you think that'll be?
Whatever he wants. Sometimes you don't negotiate.
Is your desire to get it as...
Yeah, I'd love to have him for 10 years. But Kevin Durant, look what he did for us last year. He did us a great service, so he's earned the right to sign whatever deal he wants. And I just want him to sign a deal. But want him to be happy and want him to know that we want him as long as he wants to be here. He's earned that to kind of lay out the terms.
And we know there's differences, obviously, in basketball and football, but what a difference. There's a guy that basically you're going to sign whatever. And Aaron Donald, the best defensive player in the league, has been negotiating for a year and a half, and still doesn't have a deal. Khalil Mack, maybe the best at his, one of the best at outside backer. Aaron Donald, the best defensive player. Odell Beckham, top 3 receiver in the league. Zach Martin, best guard in the league. All in that same position of that 5th-year guy, all right at the top or near their position, and they don't have deals. Now, I know Zach is close to having his deal. Well-deserved, will be the highest-paid guard out there, but that's just another of the major difference of these two sports when you have the max deal that they're going to sign and the other guys are still negotiating, especially a guy like Aaron Donald.
How funny is it in that last segment we talk about Julian Edelman testing positive for a substance that we can't readily identify, and still the most shocking thing to me was that the Rams would have the audacity not to give Aaron Donald exactly what he wants with the position in him right now. It's insane to me, and there are plenty. That's the beauty of defensive players is with Zach, it's hard to quantify guards a lot of times.
Right.
With Aaron Donald, there are normal metrics. I have deep cut metrics right here that will show you that Aaron Donald is worth that quarterback money. It is patently offensive that he's not being paid.
Well, and we'll get back to it a little later because there was sort of a stunning admission in Schefter's time with us that they may not be able to work it out with Aaron Donald. They may just have to put their assets elsewhere and figure out a way to move on.
Man, I have some words on that.
Stunning to say. We'll get back to it, but coming up, we're still looking for a correspondent from the Capitals Parade, 860-505-5505, and we have a pretty good candidate going to join us.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030. To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. And we will go straight to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. John Walton, voice of the Capitals on Caps Radio 24/7, joins us. John, your call went all over the world. You obviously knew there was the chance the Capitals could win that night. Did you sort of map out what you wanted to say in that moment?
Yeah, I guess I did a little bit. I've never been one to really plan things out too much, but, you want to be able to capture the moment. So I gave it some thought earlier in the day. I think you want to capture the history of it. The Caps had never won, obviously, and this town has been waiting for a championship for a generation. If you're under the age of 35 and you live in Washington and you're a lifer here, you don't know what this feels like. The Redskins in 92 doesn't even register for you. So to be able to capture that moment, to be able to be a witness to it was something I'll truly never forget.
So, John, I know you've been with the team obviously all year. You're going to have a role in the parade today. I want to get to that. But I think the big question we want to know is, since the winning of the Cup, have you had as much fun as Alex Ovechkin has?
Mike, I think it's pretty fair to say that no one has had as much fun as Alex Ovechkin has compared to what him. Oh, my goodness. I have not gone swimming in a fountain. I haven't done a keg stand out of it yet. I'm not saying that those things couldn't happen today, but I think that Alex, I mean, listen, he's a human emoji. He's so emotional. He's so happy. Everything. I mean, this is what a celebration should be. This is just raw, pure emotion. And he's not the only one. I mean, they realized the gravity of the moment. The last 2 years, they were President's Trophy winners, and they got bounced in the second round. This team's never won. I think we expected an outpouring of emotion. I don't know that we expected it to be chronicled so well on social media, but, man, it's been fun to watch him, hasn't it?
Absolutely has been. John Walton, voice of the Capitals on Caps Radio 24/7, with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We see how he's dealing with the success now, but this is a guy, as long as the Caps have been coming up short, it's been associated really chiefly with Alexander Ovechkin. How has he handled it throughout the course of this season where the tide finally seemed to turn?
Yeah, it turned somewhere, I think, in the second round against Pittsburgh. And I think whether you're a fan or a player or you work in the front office, the feeling was over the last 2 years it was familiar and not good when you're trailing in Game 5 against Pittsburgh, and you've been here before. But I think for Alex and for the entire city, I think the switch got flipped in Game 5. They come back and get 4 goals in the third period, and they never really looked back after that. They had a heck of a series with the Tampa Bay Lightning and going 7 and coming back from 3 games to 2 to do it. But there was a calmness about this team and about Alex and about all of them, really, that we've never seen before. Usually they'd come up small in the second round, and it was on to the off season. And for 20 years we hadn't even seen this team get out of the second round. Once you saw the third round, they seemed to almost thrive on that. They won the first 2 games of the Tampa series. Tampa then won 3 in a row, and then the Caps ended up closing it out in the last 2. But there was a calmness in the face of adversity that we have not seen, and that's a credit to everybody that wears the uniform for this franchise. They never blinked, and that's why there's going to be a parade on the mall this morning.
We're talking to John Walton, voice of the Capitals on Caps Radio 24/7. John, for all the conversation about the guys that wear the jerseys, there's also been a monkey on the back of Barry Trotz and a perception that maybe he couldn't take a team to the next level. What does this cup do for him and his stature there?
Well, certainly thrilled for him. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, he never did out of the second round either with Nashville or Washington. And and operating without a contract and now moving forward in toward the off season, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. But just like a player, can't imagine going into free agency any better than what he just Stanley Cup. So, he's been terrific, and I think his calmness behind the bench, he was having more fun than we've ever seen him. I mean, even through the final, I mean, you never got the sense that there was any nervousness there. Whether the Caps are out the same old in the second round or doing what they did and going all the way. I never really felt like there was a moment where he just wasn't enjoying the ride, whether it was the bench interviews during the game or the interviews afterwards and talking with the media. He relished the moment, and I think that's been terrific to see. And I hope he's back. I guess there's a little bit of doubt when you don't have a contract. Brian McClellan has said he wants to be back, he'll be back. But it sounds like there's still some talking that needs to be done there.
As you said, leverage is key, and he has about as much leverage as you can have right now. But today is a day of celebration with the parade starting in a couple hours. What is going to be your part of that parade, and what is the expectation from the fans today with numbers?
Well, the numbers, the parade permit says 100,000 plus, and I think it's the plus that got my attention because I think it's going to be higher than that. The setup for the parade, for those familiar with D.C., will be on the National Mall at 7th Street with the backdrop being the Capitol, which is going to be fantastic. Then you're going to have fans lined up from 7th all the way probably to 14th. There's going to be a ton of people. My role, I'm going to be in the parade. I'm actually with my color man, Ken Savin, right now in the car, and we're heading downtown. And the traffic, if it's any indication from what we're in right now, I think there's going to be a lot of people there. But then Joe Beninati and myself will be co-emceeing a rally, which will be on NHL Network, and that's going to be, I think, a thrilling moment to see everybody in this city turning out. This city is starved for something like this. It's not been a good run for the Redskins or the Caps or the Wizards, and the Nats have had their struggles too. But, I think we're hoping that the Caps transcends hockey. I think that for this city, they say, why not the Nationals? Why not Max Scherzer getting to the World Series for the first time? Why not the Nats making a run? They're going to be up next. They've got a pretty good team, too. I think the feeling is now one of positivity, as opposed to what we've had around here for a quarter century is more or less just waiting for the other shoe drop. Hopefully that's behind this city for a long time.
Well, congratulations on a fantastic call and a fantastic run. You guys can follow him on Twitter at Walton Caps. John Walton, voice of the Capitals, Caps Radio 24/7. John, thanks for your time this morning.
Have fun, John.
We will. Great day to be in D.C. Thanks, guys.
That was when they beat Pittsburgh, there was the thought process of, okay, now what happens? Now you're going to play. Is it we finally got over that hump, or were they going to exhale? And then, they go up 2-0. They win both of them in Tampa. And you're like, wow, okay, they're answering the bell there. And then Tampa wins the next 3. So they got to win the last 2. The last one on the road in Tampa to get by them. That was the series to me to get past after finally getting through that Pittsburgh Penguin door, the wall that they had to knock down. Once they got past that one, now I was a little surprised at how they won the cup. I thought that would be a better series with the Golden Knights out in Vegas, but I think that Tampa series was huge.
It was the emotional letdown where we talk about that with Golden State and that team, the emotional letdown of having already been to the mountaintop, that emotional letdown of getting through a rival and the tendency to exhale and get out of your normal routine. You're also in an area where your routine hasn't been before, so it's a little uncharted. All of it was set up, and they took the bait on none of it.
Stanley Cup championships are also going to change the way we view this era of Caps hockey because their regular season record has been so spectacular. So, guys, don't forget 30 for 30 podcasts have returned. Subscribe to 30 for 30 podcasts right now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or on Apple Podcasts, brought to you by Delta, where it's our goal to connect your life in the air to your life on the ground. Coming up, we need to follow up on a story from yesterday that has us all fired up.
Next, you're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie, this does look fun. Whee! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Still looking for a parade correspondent? You can call us 860-506-5505. Either parade, really. I want to go back to something. We had Adam Schefter earlier in the hour, and we were talking to Adam about some of the guys that have held out, Aaron Donald being one of the big names that's out. And Schefter sounded almost a little frustrated with the situation, but he said something that opened all of our eyeballs. Check out what Schefter said earlier with us.
They've been talking for about a year and a half now, trying to get that deal done, and they've been unable to do it. I know the Rams have made some big offers. I know Donald has countered that. I know the two sides have been unable to get anything done, and I don't think there's as much talking right now as there was, say, at this time last year. There are so many players in Los Angeles that want a new deal. Right now, there's just been a lack of conversation, a lack of clarity from both sides about how to get this done. And they're certainly not moving in the right direction to get this deal done right now.
It's staggering because it made it sound almost like the Rams are they're going to allocate their assets elsewhere and maybe just move on.
No, that makes no sense at all. I mean, I would think you get this deal done and then you have a better idea of the parameters of that money over the next X amount of years that will help you sign, because he mentioned all the other guys that are looking for deals, and I get it. At least you'll have an idea of where you're going to put them. There is no way they can not keep Aaron Donald. It's just an impossibility.
Again, it's the difference we talked about between Kevin Durant and the league and the NBA, where a player, you understand their value, it's easily transferable to the next year, and we sign the deal and move on. And with Aaron Donald, the consensus right now, best defensive player in football, somehow we have difficulty with this.
So what do we have? $300 million deals for defensive players. Albert Haynesworth, which was a bust.
Womp womp.
J.J. Watt, which as a player, he's not a bust, but injuries, you can't get him off the field. If you can't be on the field, that makes it difficult. And Von Miller, who certainly has played extremely well with that deal. Aaron Donald, if he gets that deal, he's going to have a $100 million deal.
Yeah, Justin Houston looks like he's also on the $100 million list. And
Fletcher Cox.
Cox.
Mike,
I forgot about Fletcher Cox. That's right.
You're big on defensive tackle, super important to the strategy of the game.
Yes, interior pass rusher specifically. So, former colleague of ours works at the NFL Network now. Cynthia Freeland did a study on interior pass rushers and the effect you have. And basically what it boils down to, as far as the effect a guy like Aaron Donald has on you, again, so much easier to quantify than a guard like Zach Martin, who you're going to pay, who we all know watching him is one of the top, if not the top guards in the league. But with Aaron Donald, you can prove it. And you look at the NFL, and in the past 3 years, in spots where normally you'd have thrown longer passes, you'd have run the ball, think first and second down, 3rd and 5 or under like that, short passes are up 23%. Passing the ball shorter more than ever. College offenses trickle up to the pros. In those same instances now, over the last 7 years, when you're getting interior pass rushing, when you're getting interior pressure, you're stopping drives 27% more often. You can boil that back down to the presence of guys like Aaron Donald, a guy who you want to just look at raw stats, whether it's pressures, tackles for loss, over the last few years has grossly outpaced his peers, and yet somehow is chasing a payday. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm stunned by this. And listen, you ask a quarterback, and for years they've always said they fear pressure up the middle more than from around the ends, because now they're stepping up into the garbage around their legs. That's where a lot of injury can occur, and you take those hits right to the face. You're not technically supposed to take them there, but that's where you do, right up the gut. And he's the best at it, without question. So I would be amazed at this if they don't get this deal done. I think it would be ridiculous. I don't think they even worry about the other guys until they don't have to worry about Goff for another couple of years. And that's been the key. That's why you bring in a Sue for 1 year at $14 million. That counts against your cap. And you worry about these other guys after you kind of set your number with Aaron Donald.
Yeah, outside of quarterback, there's nobody more important to the Rams than Aaron Donald. So forget everybody else. Get him done, and then worry about what your quarterback situation
and the amazing thing is, look at the difference of Kevin Durant and all the max players that get played the same. Look at it, the best guard in the league in Zach Martin's going to get probably in the 60s deal with 30-some guaranteed.
Probably like $13 million a year.
Yeah, but as far as guaranteed in the 30s, 60-some total. And Aaron Donald's going to get over 100 and probably 60-some guaranteed. So the two best at their position, what a wide separation as opposed to basketball where you get paid basically the same.
Which is all remarkable talk, but can we get to what's really important from yesterday?
Need it.
IHOP changed their name to IHOB, and I thought it was going to be International House of Breakfast, International House of Bacon. No, it's International House of Burgers.
But they pulled a really good one, I thought. They had us all livid, everybody tweeting. I mean, Denny's is tweeting at him, Waffle House is tweeting at him, Whataburger's tweeting at him. Of course, Wendy's is tweeting at him. Wendy's has one of the greatest social media person out there throwing out tweets. But it turns out maybe IHOP got the last laugh, and it was only a temporary change just to let you know that they were going to offer more burgers, but they're still going to be IHOP overall.
Expanded afternoon burger menu, trying to just make people aware of that in a way that I understand we all think no publicity is bad publicity, but with this, you just basically spent the day getting roasted by the internet. I'd be interested if this is actually going to translate to anything, because they were just trying to get themselves back in the conversation. That certainly happened, but man, at what cost?
My favorite tweet from Wendy's, by the way, I love you, Wendy's, call me, is can't wait to try a burger from the place that decided pancakes were too hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just...
You knew it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen from them, right?
I don't know who runs Wendy's social media, but I love you. And I don't think it's too early in our relationship to say that.
You got one from Denny's over there too, Dad?
Yeah, Denny's. I got to find that real quick. Denny's had a... Come on, load up. Denny's. Grandpa, do you remember the Great Burger Wars? Laugh out loud. No, I was chilling, drinking milkshakes and trying to make sense of Westworld.
Honestly, Denny's low-key won. Everyone else was some version of copycat of what Wendy's did. Denny's went out on a limb, and I appreciate that. From the pancake realm, no less. The pancake market's supposedly flat. We know one NFL coach that disagrees with that.
Well, that one NFL coach, we'll that's a heck of a tease there, Mike, because somebody spent too much on blueberry pancakes. That's all I'm saying.
Whataburger tweeted out, as much as we love our pancakes, we'd never change our name to What a Pancake.
Yeah, well.
Oh, but what a pancake it is.
White Castle said we're not going to be Pancake Castle, although that might be an improvement. I don't know.
That's
It may not be in for Pancake Castle. Coming up, Kevin Durant isn't the only superstar taking not so subtle shots at LeBron. You'll hear about it next. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio.